Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is the Hagerstown and Pottstown race weekend recap video. And I put these two races together because there's not much footage from them, to be honest, unfortunately, and you'll see why. You already did kind of see a sneak peek. So this is Hagerstown. So this was a Friday night. We were racing around 6:30, and the Pro 1-2 guys didn't start till 9:30, so they were actually under the lights. But this is the Cat 4-5 field, and it's a pretty decent-sized field. I think there are about 70 guys, and I am once again racing for Evo. That's my team, Evolution Lindsay Cars. I had one other teammate in here who had just joined the club, and I don't know how much race experience he had. I think he was behind me for most of this, so we didn't really get to work together, but I was also with Meta. There were a decent amount of Meta guys here, so we were kind of able to work together for a little bit, but yeah, for this race, I figured that I could do pretty well. I wanted to stay towards the front to try to avoid the jostling and the washing machine and crashing that usually happens with the mid-pack or the back. So I'm just trying to move up to the front and cover any moves that could go. And I really like this course. This course was really cool. I'd watched Corey Williams' video before this to see what it looked like for the Crit National Championships a couple years ago when they did it in this direction, and doing it was really cool. I really liked it. And the race started kind of quick. There was a decent headwind in that section that led up to that sharp left-hand turn that went down that hill. So that section in between the buildings leading up to that was all a headwind, so it was pretty strong headwind as well. So that kind of took it out of your legs a little bit. But the rest of this, so this part here was kind of a tailwind, more or less. And the finish line was cool. It was like right here in the downtown, and this is obviously where the most people were. So this is a cool atmosphere to watch and to race in. But yeah, this is Hagerstown, and this is about an hour away from DC. So no surprise, a lot of the big DC teams are here with Kelly, DC Velo, NCVC, myself, Evolution, Meta, and the other usual suspects. So it was a pretty well-attended event. And that applies to all the categories too. The women's race was pretty well attended, and the men's masters races, and then the Pro 1-2-3. Oh, yeah, a couple guys go down there, they slide out, and that was the first of many crashes. So if you watch Sean Sorby's YouTube channel, you will see a lot more crashes on his video because he has more footage than I do, and you're about to see why. So right here, single pace or single file. And this guy, Kelly, eventually moves to the outside here, and I'm like, okay, I have enough space, I'm feeling confident, and I have enough room here to move, and I just make a slight adjustment to the left and completely lose the front wheel. And that was it. That was the end of my race. I had a busted up chin, had a bunch of road rash, scuffed up the bike, bent both of the shifters in, and I thought briefly about a free lap, but honestly I was hurting too much, so I decided to just call it with a lap and a half in. So here's it is, slow down. Again, I had plenty of space, no pressure from anyone on the inside or outside, and I just slide out on the smooth pavement. And hey, what's up? I'm just chilling, don't mind me. Hanging out on the track, you know. This guy was like, oh shit. And he unclipped, which was smart because you'll see he goes whoop over his handlebars, but he manages to kind of plant a foot down. And yeah, that was the end of my race. And I remember thinking as I was going down, like, oh man, I really can't believe that I'm already going down with only a lap and a half in. That really sucked. I mean, I was hurting a lot for sure, but more than anything, I was just upset that I didn't even make it that far. I only made it,
you all right, man?
Like 4 minutes into this race.
Oh man, that hurt.
And yeah, that was it. So I was over here for a decent amount. There was someone watching in a house nearby that was nice enough to lend me some paper towels because I was just bleeding profusely from my chin. It was pretty bad. And I ripped my jersey, unfortunately, my really nice race jersey. I only have one because why would I order more? Because I didn't think I would crash ever. And yeah, got some road rash, got a slight sprain in my right shoulder from landing weird. got blood on my nice race supply gloves, but fortunately I just washed it. So
Yeah, I know. Well, that didn't go as planned. I slid out. Freaking destroyed my shifters. I think my back wheel is toasted. My chin, I think I might have to get stitches. Ripped my jersey. My shoulder hurts. Yeah, that was not fun. Made it a whopping 1 3/4 of a lap into this race. Ugh.
So that was the end of my day. I spent the rest of the day cheering on the rest of the guys and getting ready to go to urgent care, which is always fun. So I got some stitches in my chin. I got 4, and I got some bandages, got some Neosporin, and then look at this. This is the day after, and this is in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. And this is me deciding against the best wishes of my mom and of urgent care to not only not rest, but to go right back on the horse and get back to racing. And to be honest, I rode the morning before this race, and I was feeling good. My shoulder actually didn't hurt on the bike, and I had stitches in my chin, so, and I mean, other than some slight pain and kind of discomfort, my chin was fine. And my legs were fresh because I only did a lap and a half of Hagerstown. So I was kind of on the fence about doing it, and then rode the bike, felt really good. And this Pottstown race was in the later afternoon, so I had plenty of time in the morning to ride and to get ready. And I had called May because we were already going to go up to cheer on the Meta guys. And my girlfriend May, I called her and I said, look, I kind of want to race. And she was like, okay, all right. So I'm actually racing my newer bike. Shock, I know. I'm racing my newer bike now because I have a little bit of work to do on Rojo before I can ride that again. And I figured this one was a little less technical, and it's also raining. So not only did I hop back in a race after I crashed, but I also hop back in a race when it's wet. So I'm just really smart. I'm just, totally playing it by the book, totally being safe, because, well, why not? Why not race in the wet the day after you crash? But in all honesty, I had been much less confident in my turns today in this race here. I mean, no surprise. So Rudy right there, you'll see him kind of skirt. Yeah, so he slid out a couple times there, and he actually drops his chain right there. But he comes back. But I just didn't have the confidence in the turns today in this race, and I just let gaps open up. So right now we're still kind of with the front group. We're dropping them a little bit. And this race was fast, I'll be honest. This race was pretty quick, and there's a lot of climbing. So this part up here is all an uphill. Take a left here, and it's still kind of an uphill. And then it flattens out when you come up to take this right, and then it's kind of downhill from there. The start-finish line is actually on a long downhill street into that right-hand turn at the bottom. But it was kind of dicey because it's all wet, and even though I had bigger tires on this new bike, I have 28s on this new bike, and I made sure to lower the PSI on this one, I was still just a little hesitant. And I actually kind of felt kind of tired. Even though my legs were fresh, I got a couple laps into this race and was just kind of feeling dead, to be honest. My legs were feeling heavy. I was zapping my legs because I was letting gaps open up, and then I was spending a lot of energy to try to close it. So, especially in this turn right here. So it's a long sweeping left, or right, sorry. And you have a ton of street. You have a ton of room to move around, but I just didn't have the confidence to stick it. And I saw the paint, got freaked out, and I didn't want to crash again because I was still hurting from yesterday. And I'm also on my new bike, so I wanted to play it safe. I figured, look, the fact that I'm even racing right now is enough for me. I was proud of myself for just getting back on the bike, getting back on the horse, and doing it again. And yeah, just kind of trying to stay with the front group as long as I could, but it honestly didn't last that long. I was with the front group for the first few laps, and it just got to the point where the gaps got too big, and I kept burning so much energy that I couldn't keep up. and I eventually lose the front group, so you'll see that coming up here. But similar to Hagerstown, there were a decent amount of DC teams here, even though it is further away. So this guy right here on the Diamondback with the orange tape, he actually was in Pickle Juice, and he was in the Pennsylvania State champion jersey when he did Pickle Juice. So, which means that he is the reigning, I think this is the Cat 4 race, so he must be the reigning Cat 4 PA State champ. So he's pretty good. I know he's good. I've rid with him, and I know how he races. He races really smart. And there are a couple other Kelly guys in this race. Meta, we had a whole squad, so I actually was a guest rider for Meta for this race. The president of Meta, Jonathan Franco, had asked me if I wanted to be a guest rider after being on Evo but kind of riding with him for so long. So I put on the Meta jersey. I put on my girlfriend's jersey, actually, that fit me pretty well. But I was a guest rider for Meta today, and we had actually talked before the race. We had designated roles. So my job was to kind of be the sprinter, but also chase things down if I needed to, if brakes kind of got away and there wasn't anybody else on our team to do it, just because I have the ability to bridge gaps, and especially like with uphills here, with a lot of climbing, I was able to attack and gain spots on the uphills. So that was kind of my job. And the couple other members of the team, so there's Rudy, who was meant to kind of cover attacks as well, and then Franco and Joe were kind of the ones that were going to pull for the most part, especially Joe. Joe's pretty new to cycling, but he's also a machine. He can go for pretty long on the front, and he's a pretty tall dude, so he's a good draft. So we talked before the race, but unfortunately there's a little bit of chaos in the beginning where Rudy dropped his chain and Joe actually slides out. So Joe was behind me, and so this turn right here was where he slid out. There's a manhole cover on this turn, and he's actually right there on the side of the course, so he'd already slid out, unfortunately. So he was done for the rest of the race. So we were down to 4 guys, and right now I'm losing the front group. So that's the front, and I'm letting them go away, not because I want to, just because I'm feeling really tired, and these guys are passing me, and I'm just not confident in the turns. I was still freaked out from yesterday, and I ended up being alone in no man's land for a couple laps of this race, which just sucked because I was breaking my own wind. Like, I got to take pretty efficient lines because I was by myself, but I was just breaking my own wind. I was climbing hills without any draft, and it sucked. But eventually, the chase group caught me, and that's actually Claudio, who has a pretty popular YouTube channel for bike racing. I noticed him before the race, and he said on his channel at one point that he had gotten the vegan cyclist kit. So he was in this chase group, and this guy here, and at this point I don't even think I knew that they were actually, the rest of the Meta guys were behind me. And after the race, my girlfriend had told me that she was yelling at me to hold back and wait for the group to catch me, and I didn't know that. I was just so focused, and I heard yelling, but I didn't really understand what they were trying to tell me. But I realized later that it was because the rest of the team was behind me, and I was just spending unnecessary energy in no man's land just by myself when I could have fallen back a little bit and gotten back in rotation. So that's what's happening here. So the chase group's caught me, the front group's well in front of me, and you're going to start to see us actually working together, which is pretty cool. It was the first time that I've really done team tactics in a race like this before. We didn't really have roles at this point. Our main objective was to just drive the pace of the group and take turns and not take too long pulls for each of us so we don't die. But this part here, this uphill kind of windy part, I found it a good spot for me to make up spots. And so right now I'm actually pulling the group. And I pulled the group up this part a couple times. And by the time I got to that left-hand turn, I was pretty dead. I was pretty gassed. So I would pull off and let the group pull through. But I was feeling pretty good. I mean, all things considered, especially after crashing yesterday, like, again, my legs were fine. The road rash was a little painful under the bibs, but otherwise, yeah, it was totally fine. My shoulder felt okay. So now our team's pulling through, and Franco, who's right here on the Cannondale in front of me, somebody had hit his front derailleur in like a crash before, and he couldn't shift into the big ring. So he was effectively single speed, small ring on the front, and I don't even think he could shift in the back either, because I think something happened with his cables in both of his derailleurs where he was single speed the entire time. So he was spinning it to win it. And it was interesting to watch because I remember coming up to him and seeing him spin at like 120 RPM, and I was like, what the heck are you doing? But he was, yeah, he sent it. He was pretty ballsy for doing that. And they didn't call it a mechanical either for some reason. Like, he went to the officials and they didn't call it a mechanical, didn't give him a free lap, which was kind of annoying. But anyway, we started working together, and it felt pretty good, honestly. And unfortunately, so I didn't have a chance to charge my GoPro between Hagerstown and Pottstown, just because I decided kind of last minute that I wanted to race, and my bag was still packed from Hagerstown, but I was spending the night at my girlfriend's and I had forgotten my charger, so I wasn't able to charge my GoPro, so I actually only got like half of this race on camera. And it ends up being kind of okay, because what also happens is with 9 laps to go for the main field, the officials gave us 1 lap. So they effectively pulled us, but they gave us results, like they actually placed us, but they cut our race short by about 8 laps. So I ended up getting 17th, which, all things considered, was actually not that bad. I think the field was, 40 people. It was kind of a smaller field today. And, I mean, all things considered, again, after crashing yesterday and getting back on the bike and racing today, I felt pretty good about that. Obviously no upgrade points. I think I only have 1 right now. But, yeah, we worked pretty well towards the end. And then we just kind of hung out after and drank some beers and just hung out as a team. It was really nice. It was cold and it was raining, so it was kind of miserable, but fortunately we had a tent. But yeah, so right now Claudio's kind of pulling a little bit. Rudy's here on the left, and Rudy's got a mean sprint. So I know that Rudy can sprint. And Claudio pulls here for a little bit. There's a bump there that kind of like threw me off. He pulls here, and then he kind of just chills. And he was willing to do some work for the group, but honestly, like, the meta guys, like, we were all pretty much pulling the group for most of it. And I remember specifically at one point in this race, it was our last lap, so not the last lap of the race, but Franco had yelled at me. He was behind me, and right at this point here, he's like, "Go, Aaron, go!" And I just basically burn all the rest of my matches going up this hill and throwing a huge attack. And I got really good separation, honestly. Like, I look back when I got to the top of this hill when I took that left turn, and the gap was pretty big, but by that time I was done. Like, I was gassed. It was the last lap. And eventually 2 people had passed me, but I was able to stay in front of the rest of the group, and I got 17th. Franco got 18th. And the rest of the guys were not far behind us. They were only a couple places behind. But all in all, it was a good race, and I was still pretty proud of myself for getting back on the bike. And I'm more looking forward to the Lower Providence race, which is on the 27th. So I'll have a full week to train, heal up, and get ready for that. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. And like and subscribe if you want to see more of these, and I'll catch you at the next one.